The morning in Dubai was blazing hot, but inside the grand lobby of the Sapphire Crown Hotel, it was as cool as stepping into another world. White marble floors veined with gold, crystal chandeliers stretching 5 meters long, cascading like waterfalls of light. Everything was designed to send one message. This place was only for the elite. Selena Carter, dressed in a simple cream suit, stepped through the revolving door with a crossbody laptop bag and a calm gaze. She walked straight toward the VIP registration desk for the 2025 International Conference on Technology and Investment. The LED sign above blinked. Executive session, 8 o'clock. The Rolex clock at the concierge desk showed 9 minutes left before the event began. A cold, sharp female voice rang out from behind. Security. Throw her out before she steals something from a guest. Selena froze. The voice carried through the entire lobby, bouncing off every marble surface. When she turned, Claudia Harrington was already striding forward, her Louboutin heels striking the stone in an angry rhythm. A tight red dress hugged her figure, and a $6,000 Dior bag swung from her elbow. Without asking, Claudia grabbed Selena's wrist, blood-red nails digging into her skin. People like you are always trying to sneak into places you don't belong. Murmurs rippled through the space. A few nearby guests stepped back. Others raised their phones to record. A receptionist glanced toward the security cameras, then quietly slipped away from the desk. Selena kept her gaze calm, though her palms were starting to sweat. She heard the faint beep-beep from the phone in her bag messages from Novosphere's legal team and board of directors, but she didn't take it out. Claudia tilted her head, her faint smile dripping with contempt. Perhaps you printed this invitation at some cheap copy shop. Let me help you find the staff entrance. It's at the back of the hotel, sweetie. Selena took a deep breath, resisting the urge to yank her hand away. The chandeliers above cast a cold light onto her face, illuminating every gaze in the lobby, curious, annoyed, some looking as if they were ready to witness an entertaining scene. You should take your hand off me, Selena said slowly, her voice low but each word clear. Claudia laughed, a sound as sharp as glass cutting. Or what? You'll call your lawyer? From the direction of the luxury bar, a group of guests in Armani suits and Patek Philippe watches turned to look. One white man smirked and tossed out a comment as if to join the fun. She's probably here to apply for a job in housekeeping. Selena didn't respond. She knew this battle was only beginning, and the entire lobby unconsciously chose sides. The click of polished shoes echoed from the concierge desk. Omar Khalid, the longtime manager of the Sapphire Crown, appeared. A deep navy-tailored suit, a neatly knotted satin tie, and a face as cold as the hotel's air conditioning. His gaze swept over Selena briefly, then lingered longer on Claudia with the practiced smile that high-end clients were accustomed to. What's going on, Mrs. Harrington? Omar asked, his deep voice steady, laced with a touch of respect. Claudia immediately straightened her back, chin tilted toward Selena. She's trying to infiltrate our VIP event. The invitation she gave me is fake. Keeping her gaze calm, Selena slowly pulled out an envelope embossed with the Global Tech and Investment Summit logo. Thick ivory paper, gold foil lettering. She held it out to Omar. This is my invitation. Omar took it but only glanced at the surface, his fingers tapping lightly on the envelope as if thinking of ways to stall. Please wait here. I need to verify it. A few small chuckles rose from the guests standing near the elevator. Someone whispered, someone like her at this conference? Dr. Leila Zhang, CEO of Orion Systems, stepped out from the direction of the glass elevators, reflecting the golden light of the lobby. Her ash-gray tailored suit was immaculate, the collar adorned with a silver crown-shaped brooch. She stopped, her eyes scanning the scene, then pulled from her handbag an invitation identical to Selena's. Omar. All the invitations used the same paper, font, and RSVP code. There's no difference. Claudia turned sharply, her eyes as cutting as knives. Leila, don't be so naive. Anyone can fake an invitation. This is a high-class event, not a street market. A man from the group near the bar gave a mocking laugh. Protecting the event is the right thing to do. Who knows what you people might do here? The words "you people" slipped from his mouth like an oil stain spreading across the marble floor. Those nearby froze. The hotel lobby, once filled only with the soft notes of a piano, now sank into tense silence. Selena felt the weight of every gaze scanning her from head to toe, from the unbranded blazer to the slightly worn laptop bag. She drew in a deep breath, fully aware that the power game had just changed its rules, and she would have to wait for the right moment to strike. A dry thing rang out from the lobby's revolving doors. 2 Dubai police officers entered, dressed in navy uniforms and silver nameplates, catching the light from the chandeliers. Inspector Rami Al-Saeed, tall, broad-shouldered, with the sun-bronzed face of someone used to handling the high society's unpleasant incidents, led the way. Behind him was Inspector Farid Nasser, eyes sharp yet calm, as if cataloging every small detail. Claudia immediately strode toward them, her Louboutin heels pounding urgently against the marble floor. "Thank God you're here. That woman is trying to sneak into our VIP event. She has a fake invitation and refuses to leave the hotel." Selena didn't move, still holding the invitation envelope. Dr. Layla Zhang and several other VIP guests watched silently, phones still raised to record. Rami approached Selena, his gaze sweeping over her from head to toe, then shifting to Claudia, then back to Selena. His voice was calm, precise. "Ma'am, may I please see your identification and invitation?" Selena nodded, opened her laptop bag, and took out her passport and invitation. But there was something else inside a platinum VIP card with the embossed logo of the conference, the kind reserved only for sponsors and keynote speakers. She left it where it was, her fingers brushing over it but not pulling it out. Not yet. Rami carefully examined the passport and invitation, cross-checking the RSVP code against the list on Farid's tablet. He looked up. The invitation is valid. There is no legal reason to require her to leave. The air in the lobby dropped a beat. But Claudia immediately cut in, her voice rising. "Valid? Look at her, she looks like a new waitress applying for a job. Do you think she's a guest at a first-class event?" The words sliced into the atmosphere like a blade. The phone recording quietly was now aimed squarely at Claudia, and the faint red indicators were blinking. Rami raised an eyebrow, lowering his voice but making each word deliberate. "Mrs. Harrington, could you explain exactly what you mean by that?" Claudia hesitated for a moment, but still held her defiant posture. Selena, however, remained still, knowing that her moment to reveal her hand was coming, and when it did, the entire Sapphire Crown lobby would never forget it. A faint smile, almost imperceptible, flickered across Selena's lips. She slowly reached into her laptop bag and pulled out a matte black business card, its silver-engraved letters catching the chandelier's light. Selena Carter, Chief Executive Officer, Novosphere Technologies. Without a word, Selena handed the card to Inspector Rami. He took it, his fingers brushing over the precision-etched lettering, then looked back up at Selena with a gaze transformed now a mix of respect and an awareness of her standing. The atmosphere in the lobby shifted as if a cold breeze had just swept through. Ethan Brooks, the well-known investor, silently observed from the start and stepped forward. "I know her. Novosphere is the main sponsor of this conference. Without them, today's event wouldn't even be happening." The crowd stirred. A few people lowered their phones, exchanging uneasy glances. Claudia smirked, but her voice no longer carried its earlier certainty. "Novosphere. Sounds like some small startup. Probably just a second-rate name." A female voice rang out from the elevator doors, deep and commanding. "Second-rate? The one topping the global growth charts 3 years in a row?" All heads turned. Senator Miriam Okafor appeared, walking calmly in low heels, her pristine white suit in the lobby. The chandeliers reflected off her silver hair like a halo. She strode directly toward Selena and shook her hand with unmistakable respect in front of everyone. Selena Carter, the youngest CEO ever to fully sponsor this conference. Forbes just gave her the entire cover last month. The crowd seemed to hold its breath. Phones rose again, but this time not to capture a woman being humiliated, instead, to record the moment a true power stepped into the light. Claudia stood frozen, and in that instant, Selena knew she had seized complete control of the field. Claudia tried to recover her composure, straightening her shoulders, forcing a smile, though the corners of her mouth trembled slightly. Sponsoring doesn't mean she belongs in this world. Selena didn't respond immediately. Instead, she reached into her laptop bag and pulled out a small brown leather box, placing it on the registration desk. Her fingers flipped the lid open. Inside was another business card, pristine white with embossed gold corners, its lettering sharp and precise. Selena Carter is the majority owner of Harrington Global Marketing. The sound from the crowd seemed to vanish. Only the gentle piano music from the bar and the pounding of Claudia's heartbeat in her ears remained. Selena looked up, her voice low but resonant enough for every recording phone to capture. Mrs. Harrington, as of 3 weeks ago, I am officially your boss. Claudia's eyes widened. What? Ethan Brooks instantly grasped the statement's weight, turning his phone towards Selena and zooming in on the card. Dr. Leila Zhang let out a quiet gasp, covering her mouth as if she couldn't believe it. Selena went on, each word striking like a hammer. The acquisition was completed through a shell company. Harrington Global Marketing was purchased for $52.4 million in cash. And I don't just own this event. I own the company you work for. She paused for a beat, then withdrew a thin folder from her bag and flipped through the pages. 14 official complaints for discriminatory conduct. 5 lawsuits were privately settled. 3 employees resigned because they couldn't stand how you treated them. With each number read aloud, Claudia's complexion shifted from pale to ashen. The crowd began murmuring, some stepping back from Claudia, as if afraid the scandal might rub off on them. Selena closed the folder and met Claudia's gaze squarely. You thought I came here to sneak in? No, I came here to change everything. Starting with you. The air in the Sapphire Crown lobby thickened, as if everyone was bracing for the next move, and they knew this was only the opening act. The air in the Sapphire Crown lobby was so thick it felt as if all outside sound had been sealed off. Only the echo of distant footsteps and the chandelier light glinting off Claudia Harrington's pale face remained. Inspector Rami Al-Said spoke slowly, his voice steady but loud enough for all to hear. Miss Carter, do you wish to file charges for assault and racial discrimination? Every camera turned toward Selena. Everyone waited for the answer that could end Claudia's career completely. Selena looked at Claudia for a long moment. There was no longer anger in her eyes, but something more profound, like she weighed an entire chessboard, not just a single move. Justice, she said, her voice low, clear, and cold, is sometimes strongest when it doesn't rest in the hands of a courtroom. She reached into her bag and placed a black envelope before Claudia. This is a severance package, 6 months' salary, full medical benefits, and a letter of recommendation that only mentions your professional skills, nothing personal. Claudia looked up, her eyes betraying confusion. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Why was Selena showing leniency? Selena paused for a beat, then continued, her tone sharpening. But there's a condition. You will make a public apology not to me. I don't need it, but to every single person you have ever discriminated against, humiliated, or barred from entering this room simply because they didn't look like you. The lobby fell into complete silence. Dr. Leila Zhang's eyes glimmered, and Ethan Brooks nodded in approval. Senator Miriam Okafor folded her arms, the corner of her lips lifting as if she'd just witnessed a perfect move. Selena stepped forward, lowering her voice but still loud enough for microphones and cameras to capture. You can choose. Leave quietly, letting others define you. Or step up, face your mistakes, and start rewriting your story. Claudia gripped the envelope tightly, and every gaze in the lobby, including the live stream cameras now spreading across social media, waited to see which choice she would make. The Pearl Summit conference room on the 58th floor of the Sapphire Crown had floor-to-ceiling glass walls, offering a sweeping view of the Dubai Marina glittering under the morning sun. A 10-meter ebony table reflected the silhouettes of espresso cups and sleek silver laptops. Only 18 people entered the room after the incident in the lobby. CEOs, corporate chairpersons, and the most powerful figures at the conference. Claudia Harrington sat at the far end of the table, shoulders hunched, gripping the unopened severance envelope. The face that had always been shielded by flawless makeup was now pale and rigid. Selena Carter stood at the head of the table, a large LED screen behind her displaying the Novosphere Technologies logo elegant in silver-blue minimalism. She began, her voice calm but resonant enough to strike every corner of the room. Let's be direct. What happened this morning is only a symptom. The real disease runs deeper inside the systems many of you here operate. A soft click, and the screen shifted to cold, complex numbers. USD 412 million. Losses from lawsuits and settlements related to discrimination over the past 5 years, just within Harrington Global's partner network, 33%. The average profit increase for companies with leadership teams diverse in gender and ethnicity, 73%. The percentage of major corporations that have never had a black female CEO. Some CEOs' expressions flickered. Ethan Brooks folded his arms, nodding slightly to confirm the data's accuracy. Selena went on, her tone sharpening. When someone like Claudia rejects a candidate or a client simply because they don't look like her, the damage doesn't stop at one deal. It spreads across the entire network. Lost opportunities, credibility, and revenue. She clicked again, and the screen displayed a web of corporate connections with Harrington Global at the center, lines radiating out to dozens of partner companies, many belonging to the people seated around the table. That's why I didn't just buy Harrington Global. I bought the ecosystem around it. The Novosphere Inclusion Protocol will apply to every company in this network. A few eyebrows rose, others leaned back in their chairs. Dr. Layla Zhang leaned forward, her alignment clear. Selena listed the measures. Independent oversight, reporting not to internal HR but to third-party firms to ensure objectivity. AI behavior and data analysis, detecting patterns of bias before they turn into lawsuits. Mandatory leadership training. Not hollow seminars, but a 6-month program with measurable outcomes. A man's voice rang from mid-table James Halford, CEO of a major logistics conglomerate. And if we refuse? Selena tilted her head, her tone still composed, but the air in the room seemed to drop a few degrees. You have every right to refuse, James. But in that case, Novosphere will withdraw all financial and technology service contracts worth tens of millions from your company. I'm sure the market still offers many options, though few with our rates and reliability. A heavy silence settled over the room. Some glanced down at their phones, clearly messaging their advisory teams. Senator Miriam Okafor smiled faintly, as if watching a perfectly executed chess opening. Selena knew that after today, some would agree, and some would leave the network. But the balance of power had begun to shift, and she had only just placed her first piece. Selena closed her laptop, but no one in the room moved. The air was still thick, tense like a string about to snap. Sunlight poured through the glass wall, glinting across the ebony table and casting a sharp glow on Claudia Harrington's pale face, her eyes avoiding contact, her fingers unconsciously rotating the unopened severance envelope. Selena strolled along the length of the table, her heels tapping a steady rhythm on the wooden floor. Claudia, you know I could end your career right here. Enough evidence, enough witnesses, enough weight to make sure no corporation would ever want your name on their payroll. Claudia swallowed hard, her lips trembling. In the quiet room, her breathing sounded unnervingly loud. Selena stopped beside Claudia's chair, not towering over her to intimidate, but lowering herself to meet her eye to eye. But I won't do that. Not because I've forgotten I'm choosing a different path. A soft murmur rippled across the seats. Ethan Brooks leaned forward, clearly wanting to hear the following words. Selena pulled a color-printed document from her leather case and placed it before Claudia. The cover read, Novosphere Executive Rehabilitation Program, Leadership Recovery Initiative. You'll be the first participant. 6 months of intensive training, 12 weeks of one-on-one coaching with an organizational psychologist, 8 weeks of group work alongside leaders who have successfully transformed, 4 weeks of direct mentorship with employees from minority groups to learn inclusive leadership firsthand. Claudia's eyes widened, her voice barely above a whisper. You're giving me a chance? Selena nodded slightly. I'm giving you the tools to claim that chance for yourself. This program won't be easy. There will be days you'll hate me for forcing you to face the truth. But if you complete it, you'll have 2 options. Take this certification to any other company, or come back here. As Novosphere's Chief Inclusion Officer, the one leading reform across the entire network. Around the table, a few CEOs looked startled. Others nodded slowly, recognizing a strategy as unusual as it was powerful. Senator Miriam Okafor gave a faint smile, turning an opponent into an ally. Smart move. Selena turned back toward the table, her voice steady and carrying. If we want to change the system, we can't just remove those who make mistakes. We have to transform them, turn them into part of the solution, and that transformation will speak louder than any slide deck ever could. Her gaze returned to Claudia. Your choice. Fade into silence, or stand up and start again. Claudia looked around, meeting the varied gazes, some skeptical, some curious, and some waiting to see her break the mold she had built for herself over the years. I want to try. I want to start over, she said. Her voice rough but firm. Selena allowed herself a small smile. This wasn't forgiveness. It was an experiment, and the first step in a cultural revolution in corporate leadership that she was about to set in motion. The atmosphere in the 58th floor boardroom was still heavy, but this time it wasn't tension, the charged energy of an idea taking shape. Selena Carter returned to the head of the table and opened her laptop. The LED screen behind her lit up with a bold headline: Novosphere Global Inclusion Initiative. Global Inclusive Leadership Strategy. Selena's eyes swept over the 18 faces locked on her: seasoned CEOs, corporate chairpersons, powerful investors, and at the far end, Claudia Harrington clutching the documents for the Leadership Rehabilitation Program. What just happened here, Selena began, her voice clear and firm, is not an isolated incident. It's the symptom of a systemic illness bias embedded deep into hiring, partnerships, and promotions. If we only treat each case as it comes, next year, 10 years from now, we'll still meet other Claudias. A click of the mouse. The following slide revealed charts and figures. 89%. Improvement in inclusive leadership capability in companies implementing rehabilitation programs. 45%. Increase in employee job satisfaction within a year. 67% reduction in turnover rates among minority employee groups. Selena looked around the room, enunciating each word. That's why, starting today, the Leadership Rehabilitation Program will be mandatory for all senior executives in the Novosphere network, not as a punishment, but as a professional standard, equivalent to an MBA, except focused on the art of building diverse, high-performance teams. A stir moved through the room. James Halford, the logistics CEO, raised an eyebrow. Mandatory? For all of us? Selena smiled without stepping back. Yes. If you want to continue benefiting from the Novosphere ecosystem, from financial services to technology to our global client chain, this is a non-negotiable condition. We are not just doing the right thing. We are making the smartest move for long-term profitability. Senator Miriam Okafor spoke up, her voice warm yet resonant. A market-based solution to address social injustice. I like this approach. No moral grandstanding, just a mechanism that makes discrimination economically unacceptable. Ethan Brooks added, if this model works here, we can expand it into other markets. And then, it becomes the global standard. Selena nodded, switching to the next slide. A world map appeared, marked with bright points in 12 countries where Novosphere had strategic partners. Exactly. We start here, but the goal is to set a new benchmark in international business, where inclusive leadership is not a PR slogan, but a prerequisite to participate in the global value chain. At the far end, Claudia watched quietly. For the first time in years, she didn't feel excluded from the game. She thought she was being given the chance to become part of something bigger than herself. Selena closed her laptop, letting her gaze settle on each person in the room. I don't expect everyone to agree today. But understand this. This isn't optional. This is the future. And we will build it together. Silence blanketed the room. Then Dr. Leila Zhang began to clap softly. Miriam Okafor followed. Within seconds, the boardroom was filled with applause, not the loud, chaotic kind from the hotel lobby that morning, but steady, deliberate, like a promise. Selena knew that once set in motion, this engine of change would not be stopped. 6 months later, the grand hall of the Novosphere Global Summit in Dubai shone bright. More than 500 delegates from 15 countries filled every seat. The massive LED screen behind the stage displayed the words, Inclusive Leadership, the future we build together. The spotlight fell on Selena Carter, standing in the front row, smiling as the host's voice rang out. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Novosphere's Chief Inclusion Officer, Claudia Harrington. Applause filled the hall, not the polite, restrained kind, but genuine recognition. Claudia stepped onto the stage in a perfectly tailored navy suit, her presence confident, yet her eyes humble. Gone was the arrogance, and the mocking smirk from that fateful morning at the Sapphire Crown 6 months earlier. She began, her voice steady and clear. 6 months ago, I was the worst version of myself. I discriminated. I believed success meant keeping others out. I was wrong, so wrong there was no excuse. But instead of destroying me, Selena Carter gave me a choice, and I chose to change. The screen behind her lit up with figures. 50 executives completed the Leadership Rehabilitation Program. 0% recurrence of discriminatory incidents. 20,000 employees are benefiting from a more inclusive workplace. Claudia continued, her gaze sweeping over the audience and the live stream cameras broadcasting to hundreds of thousands worldwide. Today, I'm not just telling my story. I'm calling on every leader here and everywhere to have the courage to look in the mirror, face the worst in yourself, and choose to change. Not for reputation, not for politics, but for people. In the audience, Senator Miriam Okafor and Dr. Layla Jong nodded in approval. Ethan Brooks smiled, streaming the speech live to his investment channel, where tens of thousands of young entrepreneurs were tuned in. Selena watched Claudia on stage, and one thought crossed her mind. True power isn't in defeating an opponent, it's in turning them into an ally. Claudia ended with a quote that brought the entire hall to its feet in applause. We cannot change the past, but we can ensure our mistakes become the foundation for building a better future for everyone. The ovation lasted nearly 3 minutes. Cameras panned to the front row, where Selena rose to shake Claudia's hand. They looked at each other, not as adversaries, but as partners holding a global movement. Outside, international news outlets ran the headline. From racial bias scandal to global inclusive leadership revolution, the Novosphere story. Selena knew. This was not the end. This was only the beginning. The movement had outgrown the boardroom, reaching universities, nonprofits, and governments. More importantly, it had planted a seed of change in how the world perceived power, success, and fairness.